The disappearing window. It's funny, isn't it? How curiosity can sometimes lead you down paths you were never meant to walk. That night, I wasn't planning on becoming one of those cliché horror stories you hear about. No, I was just bored. My room was quiet, the dull hum of my computer screen the only sound breaking the stillness. It was late, sometime after midnight, the perfect time to give in to the darker parts of the internet. You've probably heard the warnings. Stay off the dark web, nothing good happens there, right? But for me, those warnings were almost an invitation. What could it hurt? A bit of browsing, seeing things I wasn't supposed to see. It wasn't like I planned on buying anything illegal. I told myself I'd explore for just an hour or two, then log off and sleep. But I didn't just log off. I brought something back with me. At first, everything was disappointingly dull. You imagine the dark web to be some labyrinth of forbidden mysteries, but most of what I came across were just endless forums full of conspiracy theorists and cheap-looking black market sites. Not very exciting. I almost gave up. But then I saw it. The window. That's all it was called. A link buried in the middle of one of those empty pages, its cryptic name glowing faintly on my screen. It wasn't flashy. Heck, it didn't even make sense why the page would bother hiding it. But even though it looked simple, just a single hyperlink, it felt wrong, like it shouldn't even be there. My hand hovered over the trackpad for a moment longer than I'd like to admit. My gut was practically screaming at me to walk away. But that nagging little voice in my head whispered louder. _ you're already here. Might as well take a look _ So, I clicked it. The screen flickered, and suddenly, I found myself in a chat room. It was bare bones, just a black background, plain white text, and 3 active participants. No usernames, no pictures, no profiles, just numbers. I was 22. The others were 47 and 99. At first, they didn't acknowledge me. Their cryptic conversation was already in progress, filled with odd blocks of text that seemed more like random strings of data than anything legible. I had no idea what they were talking about, but then suddenly, the conversation stopped. "Welcome, 22. We've been waiting for you." My heart skipped. The words sat there, bold and cold on my screen. How did they know me? I hadn't typed anything yet. All I'd done was enter the room. My fingers fumbled across the keyboard as I replied. "Who are you? How do you know who I am?" Barely a second passed before a response flashed. "You ordered the invitation." Confusion swirled with unease. An invitation? What invitation? I didn't remember doing anything like that. But the words felt definitive, almost accusatory, as if they knew something about me that I didn't even know about myself. My hands were shaking, yet I kept typing, demanding answers they never gave me. That's when things got worse. 47 posted something else in the chat. A link, but instead of text, it instantly loaded an image. A grainy live feed webcam. The picture was familiar, too familiar. My stomach turned. It was my living room. The screen showed the silent glow of my TV, the coffee cup I'd left on the table, and even the half-open blind I'd forgotten to close earlier that day. I sat frozen in my chair, the air around me suddenly feeling thin and heavy. I spun around, half expecting someone to be standing there, a sinister figure captured in the very essence of reality. But no, the room was empty, just me and my racing pulse echoing in my ears. I turned back to the screen, desperately hoping this was some bizarre coincidence, maybe an elaborate prank of some kind. But deep down, I knew better. "You should lock your door." That was 99's only message in the chat before my screen flickered. And then, without warning, my internet cut out completely. The silence was deafening. My computer screen went black, leaving me alone with the ominous words still echoing in my mind. My throat felt dry, and every creak, every groan of the house sounded unlovingly close. Almost instinctively, I rushed to lock the door to my room, double-checking the deadbolt on my front door, staring into the empty street outside. No one was there, yet the feeling of being watched was unbearable, like invisible eyes were glued to me, following every frantic step I took. No one was there. Yet, the feeling of being watched was unbearable, like invisible eyes were glued to me, following every frantic step I took. No one was there. Yet, the feeling of being watched was unbearable, like invisible eyes were glued to me, following every frantic step I took. The internet didn't come back that night. I stayed awake till dawn, sitting on the edge of my bed, clutching my phone like a lifeline. I kept checking the windows, the doors, the hallway, over and over again. And yet somehow, I felt like I wasn't alone. The next few days were a blur of anxiety. My internet was still spotty, but I couldn't bring myself to enter the dark web again. Part of me wanted to go back, to figure out what had happened, to confront 47 and 99. But the smarter part of me knew better. I tried fixing things, new routers, updating devices, even using a VPN to secure my connection. But no matter what I did, the feeling didn't go away. Sometimes, my phone would buzz with notifications that didn't make sense. Empty messages, numbers I didn't recognize, strange garbled text that felt eerily familiar to the chatroom codes. And at night, it was worse. The shadows in my room seemed darker, my reflection less familiar in the glass. A single creak of the floor would send a chill racing down my spine. I couldn't shake the fear that someone, or something, had slipped through the window along with me. To this day, I have no answers. Did I somehow summon this? Did I unknowingly give permission for those people to enter my life? Or were they always watching, waiting for me to stumble into their trap? It's strange though. Part of me wonders what would have happened if I'd ignored their message, if I left the chat room before it got too far. Maybe I could have avoided this. Maybe this dread sitting in the back of my mind would go away. But deep down, I know the truth. They never needed me to click the link. I think they already had access. Once you look through the window, something looks back. If you're listening to this, wondering if you should check it out for yourself, take my advice. Don't. I mean it. Curiosity is just a thin layer between you and something truly terrifying. It's not always about what you see, it's about what sees you. And I know now that some doors are closed for a reason. Some windows shouldn't be opened. They say the internet connects us all, but maybe, just maybe, there are others out there we were never supposed to connect with. And if they invite you in, don't answer. Because once you're in, you might not ever truly leave.